everybody, this is Jay Young, the Jay Young Show, and I'm honored today to bring back by popular demand Jordan Soto. Hello, Jordan. How are you doing today?
Hello. Here in beautiful Colorado, Denver, visiting family and getting business done. How are you, Jay? How's business?
Hey, good. No, we're good. King Operating is doing well, and we're excited today to bring on a great guest here in a few minutes. First of all, I mean, let's talk about 9/11 real quick and how it impacted you. Jordan, you probably weren't born then, but
I was actually.
oh, were
Yeah,
you? Okay,
no,
all
it
right.
was
All right.
a big impacting factor in my life. I was actually in first grade, and my dad is in the Air Force, and I remember when that day happened, even though I was so young, just
Mm-hmm.
seeing it on the TV. Jay, you could probably relate to just everybody was just gathered by the TV watching this crazy thing that was happening, and it really shifted our trajectory, I think, with where we're at today. In oil and gas and business, with the military, it just impacted so many things.
Right. I did definitely. I mean, I remember I was at a breakfast up the street from our office, and it was like everybody was staring at the TV, going, "What just happened?" And
Yeah.
the second plane in the World Trade Center, and then the unfortunate events in Washington. I mean, it's just so many different things, and we can't. Obviously, there's 3,000 people that were victims of it, and think about the first responders, which I mean
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best things if you're looking at the positive side about what happened, because people look at fire department, medical people a lot different today than they did before then, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I love that.
And I think one of the things that's not really talked about too much is not just that day, but the days and years following that with the deployments of the military. My dad, we actually went back and looked at how many times he was deployed, and over the course of his career, it was 6 years and like 39 days of his
Wow.
entire career that he was deployed.
Right.
And so when you're looking at that, you're looking at the families, you're looking at the military service members, you're looking at, there's civilians that work with the military. And so you're looking at all these parties, you're
Mm.
looking at all of that. And then of course, first responders, more people were drawn to go into service positions of all kind. And my heart goes out to all those families, especially as a military brat, I can really relate. But also, I think that when we look at the day after 9/11 and we look at how everyone came together and the camaraderie that really happened thereafter, that's inspiring.
Yeah.
And with the debate happening yesterday, my sister's in Philly. She was like, with all the police that are downtown,
Mm.
you would think that there's no crime in this city.
Right.
But with that debate yesterday and seeing these two parties, I hope that we can come to a position where everyone comes together and we work forward in a way that is very beneficial for all people here in this country and
Oh, I
others.
agree. I agree. That's a great thought. Good for you, Jordan. I like that
Oh,
very much.
thank
So
you,
I tell
Jay.
you.
What did you think? You watched the debate yesterday?
I did, man. I had to go in and out of it because my daughter's car and all this, but I had to work on that. But I caught some, and I haven't poured through all the papers yet. But I tell you what, seems like Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, did not do a bad job. I mean, she was definitely prepared
Yes.
for. I mean, it's kind of like you think about it before, and you're like, I can't believe this is going to happen. She's really going to be a debate
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Trump, and all of a sudden, man. I'm not saying that she said everything that was true. We're not going to go into the lies and the truths and lies and all that.
Yes.
We're not.
There
But
was a
I
lot
tell
of
you
finger
what,
pointing on that front.
man, I think she killed it. I really do.
Yeah.
I think she
Well,
killed it.
one thing that I thought was very interesting, because there was a lot of speculation about this beforehand, and that was about the whole handshake at the very beginning thing.
Yeah.
And I saw that she made a point to go over and shake his hand no matter what he wanted to do. And she did that, and he gracefully accepted, and they went forward with that. And of course there was that finger pointing. It felt a little immature on that front.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they talked about some really good points. And
Yeah.
then at the very end of it, here we are. And next, it's up to America to choose.
Absolutely. That was good. I mean, he took every bit of what she said in stride, and so did she. I mean, it's like, okay, I understand that's how you feel, and sorry you feel that way. I'm not going to react.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting, though. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
No, I was going to say it's interesting. It's going to see what's going to happen in the next day or two, and all the different radio shows. I tried to listen to as many as I could. Last night I got caught up, and this morning.
Well, here we are talking about it too. We're our own show talking about it, and
exactly.
actually have a pretty unique perspective from Adam Coffey joining us today as well. 3-time best-selling author and veteran, might I add. And we're really excited to get his perspective on how this may impact business and where we're at post 9/11. From a veteran perspective, and bringing him in today is very exciting.
Yeah, hello, Adam. I'm glad you're here. Tell us something about yourself. I'm reading through, and I have not read your book. I just received it. It's not autographed by you yet, but I'm going to
fix that for you, Jay. I promise. Yeah.
Check that box. I'm sure you will for Jordan and I. And but kind of tell us something about yourself. Veteran, author, speaker, man, unbelievable. Tell us something about yourself.
Well, I think life for all of us is a set of experiences. If I think back about my life, my career, I just turned 60. Early years, I served in the United States Army. The military taught me something, the young version of me, the 1.0, if you will. Military taught me something about teamwork, leadership, and discipline. Great foundational skills with which to then build a career. I spent 10 years at GE working for Jack Welch and what I call the Camelot era of GE. Tech doesn't exist. GE's #1 on the Fortune 500 list. Company's growing so fast, its stock is splitting about every 2.8 years. And GE was the world's most admired company. What a great place to grow up as a leader and learn how to run a business. I then spent 21 years as a CEO building 3 different national service companies for 9 different private equity firms. And then, I got bored after 21 years of building one company at a time. I'm like, I had spent 15 years teaching at UCLA in the executive MBA program, and I wanted to impact more companies at a time. And so I pivoted out of the CEO seat for the last time about 3 years ago. I hung up my cleats and said, I'm done being a CEO. I've got 10 years left in my career, and I am going to help as many companies as I can find success. And so that's led to, now 4 #1 international bestsellers, but hey, who's counting anyway? I just had one come out a couple weeks ago, so that was the 4th. But definitely enjoying what I'm doing now. I actually work more hours today than when I was a CEO. And it's because I'm having fun again. So working with 68 different companies, about a dozen different private equity firms, coaching and helping leadership teams succeed, and that's what my newest calling and my version 4.0 is. So 1.0 military, 2.0 GE, 3.0 CEO, and now 4.0 author and consultant.
Wow!
Well, you're doing a fantastic job, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
What does success normally mean to companies? When do all 68? I'm assuming you have 68 companies now you're working with. Do they all define success differently, or do you let them define success before you get in and start getting in with the screwdrivers?
I think we all define success a little differently. There are those people who want to change the world, and they're not focused on generating wealth for themselves. I have other people who are, call it capitalist in its purest form, trying to build a big empire and monetize it. I didn't mention I had $2.5 billion in successful exits as a CEO. And so some people are chasing money, some are chasing, an idea or a vision. So I let my clients define success. But what I do try to infuse are some of the best practices I think that I've learned over the years. And some of this goes back to my military days.
Right.
You know, we're talking about it. It's 9/11. You know, what a horrible memory, you know, for those of us who were alive at the time and cognizant. And we, you know, it's like the where were you when? You know,
Right.
it's like no one forgets where they were on that morning. But some of those common lessons that I've learned, you know, I've held every job a person can hold on an org chart. Speaking of the military, I started at the bottom. I was a private E1 in the United States Army coming out of high school. And
Oh,
when I
wow.
looked up, I saw bubble gum on the bottom of somebody else's shoe. That's how low I was. So I try to instill in all people that, look, in today's world, very complex world, very divided world, you know, not just here in the US, but globally. And if we're going to build an empire, we're going to need people. And so culture and how we think about employees and people has to be at the center foundation of all that we are trying to build and achieve. I believe in people. I believe if we have a strong culture, we get an engaged workforce. That engaged workforce takes care of people, customers. They give us more stuff, and revenue is an outcropping of all of that. Revenue just rains from the sky. So success in business starts with strong culture, servant leadership. You know, I learned how to be a servant leader in the military. We didn't have a title for it back then. I go back to the Ronald Reagan era. That's how old I am. But at the end of the day, it's like it starts with people. All success starts with people. And strong culture begets, you know, a strong culture that will help a company grow and scale and find success. So for me, I try to put some of those key learnings, you know, into every company that I touch.
Yeah.
What a great place to work after the military, going to work with Jack Welch. I'm reading his book right now, and that's The Art of Winning, I think is what it's called, or Winning maybe is just what it's called. But he was talking about that. He was talking about people, and he was talking about culture, and, you know, not just having like the plaque on the wall, but really diving deep and making the sentences for the culture and mission like make sense and be impactful. So I want to dive a little deeper into that. You know, when we're looking at high functioning teams, right, and we're looking at the military, everybody is dependent on each other. Like, you have to be a team. When you're transitioning out of that, you know, the military world and into the civilian world, what was that transition like for you?
I found it very natural. And when I think about that exact era, I'll never forget when I'm getting ready to get out of the service. You know, you're updating your resume. And I remember a resume writing service saying, "Hey, Adam, nobody cares that you were Soldier of the Year in 1984." And like they're making everything generic. And I'm like, no, I'm leaving that in. And somebody out there is going to know what that really means. And I remember I applied for an engineering job. I had none of the qualifications for which the position was seeking. But the gentleman who was the hiring manager was an old Army captain. And the one thing he mentioned on my resume, he said, "Soldier of the Year." I know what that means. And I know what that says about you, you know, and your dedication and your ability to learn. So he hired me on the spot. I didn't get the job for which I applied, but they found another place because he just wanted a Soldier of the Year on his team. So I would say that while a lot of the skills that we may pick up in the military are not necessarily directly transferable to a specific job per se, you know, it's those character building things, you know, the foundation, again, the leadership, teamwork, discipline, dedication to succeed, willingness to continue to fight even in even when there's, you know, insurmountable odds, you know, in front of you. It's put your head down, figure out, how do I solve this solution? How do I go through that wall, over that wall, around that wall, or under that wall? You know, and so I think we you know, I learned a lot, but I think those skills, again, they were beautiful from a foundational perspective, because it's on top of that foundation I then built the business acumen, learned how to run the company and do other things. But I never forgot those roots. And because I've held every job someone could hold on an org chart, you know, I always really valued the person in the trench, you know, the guy in the truck. because I
Yeah.
used to be one, and so, that for me, I found the transition to be easy. I just needed someone to give me the shot.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. So you're saying people is obviously very important, and somebody hired you, even though you didn't fit into the place at the time, but they looked at you and they said, "Hey, I like this person," and it's all because of that one thing on your resume. Because that's obviously one thing that we talk about, Jordan and I. Our goal is to change lives every day. I'd love for the Jay Young Show to get a DM from somebody and says, "Hey, you know what? I learned that. I like that. I'm going to add this. I'm going to do this." Take action for something that will better themselves, and that's obviously talking to people like you that have been through the ladder and seen success and know what success is. That's awesome, and being a good person, a good employee, a good, I guess just a good person, and knowing what is the difference. I'm gonna give you a little shout out here. What's the difference with Adam, Coffey, the people that work with you now? What do you see that what companies do wrong, and what do you do that helps companies get better?
Let me start with
basis?
statistics,
Okay.
just to shock you. There are 34 million small companies just here in the United States. 34 million small. The government defines small company as 500 employees or less, and only 7% of those, and these companies employ half the workforce in this country, but only 7% of those companies ever get to $1 million in revenue. Only 4% of the 7% ever get to $10 million in revenue, and only 40% of those companies are actually profitable. Then you think at the other end of the scale, there's only 3,000 companies on the entire planet that have $1 billion in revenue. 2,000 public, 1,000 are private. And so success seems to be so elusive in business. Why can't people find success? And when I was doing research for some of my early books, I stumbled onto some of these statistics, and I'm like, man, I'm a guy who's built companies and got them to grow and go places that they've never been before. Every company I stepped into had been in business for 40 years before I got there. They didn't hire me because everything was running great and it was growing like a weed. They hired me because it was broken, and I'm a turnaround guy who knows how to fix it, starting with culture, and then bend the growth curve and get that culture and that engaged workforce to achieve new heights that they've never achieved before. And so I like to think, hey, I'm not God's gift to anything. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I've already stepped in every pothole that a business owner or a leader could step in. And so I think we learn more from our mistakes than we actually do from our successes. And as a result of that, my real goal and objective is to help people. It starts with the vision, and do we know where we're headed? Because it's really hard to know where we're going if we don't know where we're going. I actually teach a little skit about that. And I ask people, if I told you to get in a car and drive, but didn't tell you where to go, where would you go? And in 10 minutes, you'd be driving in circles. You wouldn't have a clue. And that's how most businesses are today. But if I told you get in the car and drive from Malibu to New York City, now you have a destination. Now you can plan. Now you can plan interim stops along the way. And you can make sure someone feeds the cats and gets the mail and waters the plants. And, and I have a hotel I can stop at. And so for success to be found by people and business owners, it starts by having some kind of a destination or end game in mind. So I help people avoid the pitfalls because I've already made those mistakes. And then I help them focus their energies on moving in a straight line so that they get where they want to be quicker and they stay there longer. So rather than spending the entire career on the journey, let's make quick work of getting closer to where we want to be. And then let's now enjoy where we've arrived and figure out then how am I going to give back? How am I going to reinvent myself for the next 10 years? But, so for me, it's really just about coaching people to avoid common mistakes that they would make because they haven't had the experience to understand how to navigate.
Yeah, but nobody really goes in thinking that they're going to make mistakes or that they don't know what they're doing or that they think, I'm going to start my own company because I want to work less and make more money. And my boss makes all my money now, so if I go out on my own, I'm going to kill it, right? What are some and so everybody goes to work every day thinking that this is it. I mean, and they go in, they go, all right. They think they're doing what's necessary to generate a profit, right? So that's what they think in their head.
Well, let me tell you what I've learned, over the years is those people that do succeed, generally speaking, are anal retentive control freaks who have, I call it, perfected the happy meal. It's the happy meal effect. I can go to any McDonald's anywhere in the United States. I know exactly what I'm going to get if I order a happy meal: a red box, little yellow handles, a cardboard hamburger and a bag of apple slices that was packaged 100 years ago. But it's consistent. And so people who find success are control freaks. Mm-hmm. But what happens is eventually they reach a ceiling where they run out of bandwidth. And in order to find a higher level of success, they think they've arrived. I'm successful, and bless them, they are. They beat incredible odds to get where they want to be. They blew through that $1 million mark. They blew through that $10 million mark, but most people run out of bandwidth at about 20 to 30 million in revenue. And so I tell people, you have to find your gearbox as an entrepreneur, and you have to learn how to go from being the first chair player in every section of the orchestra to becoming a conductor. Instead of managing minutia, we have to learn how to manage process. We have to learn how to hire good people, empower them, articulate a vision, and then hold them accountable, but get out of their way and get decisions being made in an organization at the lowest level possible with the real-time information that's needed to make adjustments, rather than having every decision having to come all the way up to the top and then float its way back down. And so there are ways that even successful entrepreneurs can learn how to take their company and find a new gear and get to a new height. And those people that find that gear, that second gear, those are the people who then build $100 million companies, 200 million, 300, 1 billion, and so it's fun. When I watch a guy like an Elon Musk and I see him in action, he's a hero for me. Why? Not, a lot of entrepreneurs found success in one company. There was a guy who found success in every company and multiple industries and saw these billion-dollar results. And so I see him as the modern-day version of Howard Hughes. So for me, from my perspective, I'm helping people find those gears and learn those tricks of the trade so that they can find a higher level of success.
I mean, how important is it to have a coach?
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. How important is it to have a coach? Even if you're brand new, or I listened to Zig Ziglar back in the day, and then Tony Robbins, and that was kind of my coach, but not really. I mean, it was motivational. I got all excited, but then I didn't know what exactly to do, because Zig Ziglar didn't come out and tell me, Jay, this is how you generate sales, and this is how you pay your bills, right? So, how important is it a coach, and how? Tell me an example. I guess an example of what's the most common mistake that people make, and what have you done to fix it?
So so great question. First of all, I think in today's world, in today's generation, we're technology has connected the globe. Information moves at the speed of light. And this generation, I'll call it, that we're living in today, not just an age group of people, but just the times that we're living in today. People are so much more receptive to getting coaching than potentially we used to be. I remember as a young guy, I had that arrogance of early success. No consultant can tell me what to do. It's like they're a consultant because they couldn't cut it, in the real world. That was your kind of mentality. If you can't do, teach. something like that. And I think we've all recognized that there's a need in today's world for continuous learning, continuous improvement. And so I think people today generally are much more receptive. There's many more opportunities for peer groups, and learning from others and trying to accelerate your own growth by getting shared knowledge and wisdom from other people who have been successful. And so, I think people who've got a mindset of continuous learning, great things can happen. I'll give you one example. My first client, when I rotated out of the CEO seat, when I started working with this man, his company had less than $2 million in earnings. We're not even 3 years later. I've helped him hire a VP of business development. I helped him raise capital. We've done 6 acquisitions. He's now 14.5 million in EBITDA. We've hired an investment bank, and he's gone from a net, a value, an enterprise value in his company of about 15 million to about 250. And we did it all in less than 3 years because he had an open mind. His company had a great culture that was thirsty for learning and growth. And in that kind of environment, that's the kind of result that you can get. So I'd say some common mistakes are hiring a coach and then not engaging, not listening. I can tell usually very quickly when someone's going to be successful in coaching, in a coaching engagement or not. I can tell by how, is this a spot on their calendar that they absolutely are going to make happen no matter what, or is it going to be that meeting that's easy to cancel or easy to pivot? They know they need help, but they don't accept the help once they seek it out, so that's a common mistake. And then the common mistake I also see is just the arrogance of success, of thinking that I know everything. And all of us, I'm not the smartest person in the room, or if I am, I'm in the wrong room. But there's a lot of entrepreneurs who think they are the smartest person in any room, no matter what. And it's that arrogance of success that we have to break through in order to help these people truly achieve a higher level of success. Because no matter who you are, there's always someone who is wealthier. There's always someone who is more successful, than you. And so we have to strive to continue to learn. We never arrive, at a destination.
Unless you're Elon Musk, right? There's always somebody more successful. What room does he go into? I mean, my goodness.
Well, yeah, he's going to colonize Mars, in a couple of years is where he's going. So, he's leaving this world behind. He's going to start colonizing other worlds.
Somebody told me that they were listening to his audiobook and they would sit in their driveway at home because they hadn't finished the chapter or something. It's that good. And I have not started it yet, but I'm finishing up another book right now. But that's great. That's another one. Jordan, did you want to say something? Were you something?
Yeah. I was thinking about leadership, and I was thinking about businesses and processes and how the world is really just accelerating, especially with this AI talk that just seems to be on every single person's mind. And Jay, that was something that you kind of touched on just a little bit there, was like you get all excited about it, and you have all this energy, and then you don't really know where to direct it or where to put it. And I'm sure, Adam, that goes partly in alignment with your vision of a company. But when you have this dialogue surrounding you that you can't really escape from, how does that translate with topics like AI or automation, just all of these things that are bombarding CEOs? How do you navigate through those waters in a successful way?
Well, yeah, ultimately, I think we have to stay intellectually curious. This AI will, there's no doubt, AI will change the world, absolutely change the world. But, like most, I'm an author, and, I played with Chat GPT in various forms. Like, here's an article I wrote for Forbes, my way. I'll feed that into Chat GPT and see what it does with it. And after a while, it's like, you know what? I went back to my own voice, and it's like, now I don't use that, for that purpose anymore. But I think we're all seeing these emerging technologies, and because technology is moving so fast, I think that the pace of change is just increasing, and it's getting faster. And I think it doesn't eliminate the basics. It doesn't eliminate sound fundamentals. And so I think we as leaders, while it's out there, and I know a lot of people are freaked out by it, it's going to disrupt my job. No, I think ultimately AI enhances everything that we do. It doesn't eliminate what we do. It enhances it. It allows us to do it better, potentially with more consistency or faster. And so I think as an organization, if I'm leading a company, if I'm a leader, a CEO, we need to be, intellectually curious about these new emerging technologies. I don't know that we need to radically change the world in a second. This stuff, I remember my brother and I owned an insurance agency for a number of years. And I remember when Elon Musk, I had a Tesla, and the first day autonomous driving was turned on in my car, I'm sitting there videotaping myself while my car's driving itself down the 91 freeway in California. And I'm thinking, wow. And my brother and I were immediately thinking, autonomous cars is going to eliminate the need for insurance companies because all cars will drive themselves. They won't smash into each other, and no one's going to need car insurance, or the premiums are going to go way down. We're going to get creamed. I better hurry up and sell my insurance agency. But the reality is we're decades away from, that potential coming. Is it coming? Sure. Once upon a time, there was literally a blacksmith on every corner, in America, and they were reshoeing all your horses. Mm-hmm. And then came the car, and now there aren't blacksmiths on every corner. There's gas stations, and maybe those will go away and become car chargers. But the truth is that the world develops. New technologies are going to always be present. We need to remain curious about what they are and how they might augment our workforces. I always look at it this way from a technology standpoint. I look at all employees at all levels of a company. I don't care if you're a janitor or a CEO. And I think about there's high value work that we do and there's low value work that we do. Right. I want, as an example, a technician with a skill, to be in front of broken equipment, repairing it and fixing the customer's issue or problem. Wasted time or low value work is filling out paperwork. It's driving from one location to another. It's chasing parts, and so how do I automate some of these low value tasks that we all have to do? It's a repetitive part of our world that needs to be done, but it doesn't really add a lot of tremendous value. And how do I use technology to eliminate that stuff so that our workforce at every level can focus more of their time on the high value work that truly adds value to our customers. And so I think learning how to adapt our companies to these new emergent technologies, knowing what's the right level to infuse that technology into our organization. We don't eliminate the human component, we augment the human component. So remain curious and be willing to try new things. And if you continuously are reinventing yourself and your organization and asking why we do the crazy things we do and trying to disrupt yourself before some other competitor disrupts you, as an outcome of what they're doing, it's like, as long as we remain curious and we keep on reinventing ourselves, we'll always be on kind of the cusp and the leading edge of that technology.
Yeah. No, that's good. I guess you heard of Vistage, and CEO groups like that. What are your thoughts of them compared to coaching, or do you need coaching with that? Or if you're just starting out or within the first year of your career, kind of, and I've had a coach for a long time, and I've been in Vistage, I've been in Tiger 21, which is a different level, but all these different groups, and I love being in groups. I love because they put together some great speakers and people like you that come in and speak to a big group of us. And then what is it that you do? I guess that's 2 questions, 3. Jordan, you know how bad I am at this. I'll start firing off questions so fast because I'm afraid Jordan's going to want to talk.
I'll be like the debate last night. I got my piece of paper so I can take my notes real quick.
I know, and Geraldo in there's going to my microphone. What is it that? So, do you like CEO groups? If so, have you been involved in any? And also, kind of what is a coach? Somebody like you got all these companies. How can you make a difference in my company? Or how does a coach? Do they come into your office and they tell you?
So I have peer groups as well. So I call it the chairman group, and so I have a white label, call it my own version of a Vistage or a YPO.
Yeah.
So some people enjoy, I'll call it the peer-to-peer interaction and the crowd, solving of an issue. And so what I find in a Vistage, or even a YPO, a different kind of, different chapters, it's like different groups and different chapters, impact people in different ways. And so not every group is created identically. And so it's highly dependent upon who the leader of that peer group is and who the cohort is of people that are in that. And so I think you have some variation in level of effectiveness, but I think that peer groups absolutely serve a time and place. And so I do have a peer group. I think I have 38 different companies, call it leaders, founders, all founders, different industries. I have little mini cohorts of groups of people, and some people like that learning style. And then I work with another 30 that's one-on-one, and so some people are more about, let's solve my issues, let's solve my problems. I like the peer group concept, but I don't want to have my personal time diluted because there's a group component. And so some people value less that group dynamic. Other people, enjoy it. So I think there is no right or wrong. If you're a person who's thinking about a peer group and or a coach, what I would tell you is try. Don't be afraid to try. And if you get into a peer group and you say, I'm talking more than I'm listening, I'm adding value to others, but I'm not receiving value, maybe I'm in the wrong peer group. And so maybe I need to think about then changing. So think of it like anything else we do in life. There's different flavors of ice cream, and we like some better than others. But the only reason we know is because we've tried them.
Right.
And so I'd say when it comes to coaching, be open to learning. That's the first key. Once we're open to learning, try a peer group, see what the value component is. And or potentially if you're not getting what you think you need or deserve, or it's not concentrated enough to just be about you, then potentially seek out a coach. And again, here, just like a peer group, it's highly dependent on the coach. Some coaches would be better than others. Some teach it from an academic perspective, but have never walked in your shoes. Others teach it from a practitioner's perspective, and have walked the road that you're seeking to travel. And so there's different flavors, different styles, and we just need to be open to trying and seeing what fits us best. And so I think you've got a group of people who are just resistant to coaching and or peer groups. You've got a group of people who are open to trying, and they need to do just that, try, and understand that there are variations and differences. When I work with my peer group, I do limited one-on-one coaching about their specific issues. And then we do a lot of group events and group content. So there's learning, but it's a shared learning, and it's very little one-on-one. When I'm doing one-on-one coaching, it's all about them. It's tailored specifically to their need. And so it's all, one-on-one about their world. But they miss out on that peer, that peer learning or joint learning, or learning that other people. If I take any problem and I make it generic, I find that there are no new problems in the world. Every problem in business has been solved before, and so when I make a problem generic, then I can learn from others, who are in similar sets of circumstances. And even though their industries are different, how they think through those issues. How do I find growth when I'm in a red ocean market where it's a race to the bottom and the lowest bid is winning? And how do I pivot and find blue ocean and new profit streams? When I think about an industry specific, it's hard to get that peer group. But when I think about it generically, everybody faces problems like that, and I can learn from others. It's kind of case study learning rather than individualized. So I think there's a place for both.
Okay. I got one more question, then I'm going to let Jordan finish up her questions.
I have one more question too, Jay. So
Okay,
there
good.
we go. You
Hey,
go first.
is there one common, when you sit down with somebody for the first time, a CEO, is there one common mistake that, you just kind of, in the back of your head, you're going, yep, here we go again. Is there anything in particular, if you sat down with me and you spent 5 minutes with me, and all of a sudden you go, oh, yep, there he is. Is there one common mistake?
So I'd say there's several common mistakes, and generally speaking, how a leader thinks about people, to me. So if I'm asking some leading questions, first session, I'm going to understand how you truly think about people and how you think about culture, and I'm going to flush that out fairly quickly. But then I'm also going to think about how you perceive, those around you, not just from a cultural perspective, but then from how you think about hiring, and how you think about benefits. And, I can learn a lot about a CEO just by asking him about, describe your 401k plan, to me. And I can learn a ton. I pay a quarter on a dollar up to 8%. Well, I got a bunch of blue collar workers in LA and they can't afford a house, or an apartment. They can't afford to save 8% of their money. You're trying to save your capital that you have to put into them. You're paying culture lip service. I get into a company and I say, I'm going dollar for dollar. Even if it's a lower percentage, I'll go dollar for dollar up to 3% because I can expect that my employees understand the math. You put in a buck, I give you a buck. And if you can just do 3% and find a way, even if it's 1% a year and we build it to 3, I will help you save for retirement. And so I have a whole methodology and framework, and I can dissect that CEO to understand how they think about growth, how they think about culture, how they truly think about people, and try to flush out kind of a common theme. But what I would say, though, is the person that's called me recognizes that they can learn and they can grow and they want to grow. That's why they've engaged me. So as long as they knew to reach out, they've engaged me, I can help. But in order to help, I need to learn. And so, how they think about management and control, and again, I'll go back to that anal retentive control freak, to be successful as a startup, as an entrepreneur, as an initial scaling company, hey, it takes that kind of mentality in order to drive success. But then we have to find that second gear. And so I can see when someone is suffering from that, and then I can start probing and testing around how are we going to break that down in their organization, because massive growth is just around the corner if I can reprogram some of that basics, some of those basic pitfalls that I find. So, I think about it, and I think about how people engage. So I kind of have a framework where I can quickly dissect a CEO to learn how they think. And then I know where I stand and I know how to help.
Well, I have one last question. And that is, when you're looking at your 18-year-old self and you're looking at where you're at now, what advice would you give to your younger self? Because you've had quite the career.
Yeah, I've had many careers. So I've been a soldier. I've been a pilot. I've been an engineer. I've been a Fortune 500 exec. I've been a CEO. I've been a best-selling author, now a coach, mentor. So there's been a lot of incarnations of me over the years. And, I say this.
Because you get bored easy.
First of all,
you get bored easy? No.
Yeah. First of all, I would say that the younger self, I would have stopped being a CEO 10 years younger. Rather than going 21 years in a CEO seat, I would have abandoned it after about 10 and got to this incarnation where I'm having a lot of fun helping multiple companies, at a time. Younger self, I think was, first of all, I wouldn't change anything because I've had a great life. And so I'm an Irish Catholic. So I say, when I die, prop me up in the corner, open up the bar and it's like, don't cry for me because I had a heck of a run. It's been a fun life. Awesome. But, I'd say younger Adam, and, I wish I would have lost, call it that early arrogance of success sooner, been open to working and learning from others. And, and so I learned all that. It just took time, right? It took time. So, the younger, this version of Adam would tell the younger version of Adam, you don't know anything, don't be arrogant, be open, get to that, servant leader and empowering others and celebrating their success, not your success, and learn all those lessons earlier, quicker in life. And then after spending, enough time in the CEO seat to really learn what I was doing, maybe make that pivot sooner. Because what I love about what I'm doing now is I'm not responsible for tactical execution, which is where I used to get just bored. Now I'm helping so many different industries and companies with strategy, and they each individually own tactical execution in their own companies. And for me, that's the fun part. So strategy, helping them with strategy, helping them avoid, if you keep driving in this direction, there is a cliff up there and you will fall off. Let's recalibrate. Let's avoid that mistake and get back on the right path, right. Or slow down. Or, a common mistake I see with entrepreneurs is I call it entrepreneurial schizophrenia. There's too many shiny pennies, and they're trying to chase 15 things at once. It's like focus. It's like Yoda saying, focus, focus power. It's like, let's do one thing really well, or let's do a couple things and do them really well. Let's not try to solve world hunger in 1,000 components all at once, because we are going to fail. We need to be focused. We need to have, a healthy care for culture and people, because if we're going to build an empire, we're going to need a lot of people. And in today's world, nobody wants to work anymore. Everybody wants to be a TikTok gazillionaire, and a social media influencer. Right. It's hard to get people to work, and if we're going to build an empire, we're going to need people. So, learning all those lessons earlier, quicker, so that I could have, gotten to that more mature level faster, that would have been the younger me.
Yeah, that's a good conclusion. I'm assuming, is there anything else you want to add to that, or is there anything you want to finish up with? I know there's a lot of, there's been so much good information here. I've learned a lot, and I can't wait to read the book. The Road to a Billion.
That book is the roadmap. That teaches you how to get out of the gates as a startup and scale through the various stages, finding the first million, finding the first 10 million, getting to 100 million, and getting to $1 billion. So I wrote that book as the roadmap to entrepreneurial success, taking everything I've learned, over the decades. So all I'd say is, I engage with my readers, and people who hear me on podcasts and appearances like this. It's like, you'll find me on LinkedIn. There's fake Adam Coffeys on Facebook and Instagram. I promise you, you've arrived when there are fake profiles trying to monetize people.
Yes.
You'll find Adam on LinkedIn. That's where you'll engage, and you'll engage with me, because it's not a team of media people that are in my social media accounts. It's me. I answer every inquiry, and I get up at a very early time. Thank you, military. That skill never went away. All my books were written between 4 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. It's like, my quiet time is very early in the day. And so reach out on LinkedIn, love hearing from people, and engaging with people there. So thank you for having me. And thank you to all your listeners out there for listening in.
Absolutely. And again, Empire Builder, The Road to a Billion, Adam E. Coffey. Don't go to the fake Adam E. Coffey, go to the real one. On LinkedIn, you'll find him, and I'm really excited. Jordan, anything you want to add to finish up?
No, thank you for your service, and thank you for helping build businesses better. We really appreciated having you on the podcast today. It was a delightful conversation.
Isn't that awesome?
Thank you.
Awesome?
Thank you very
really
much
good.
to everybody out there.
Absolutely. Adam, we didn't get into the debate too, or politics or anything else. I thought about it halfway through the show, and I'm like, I don't want to go down that road. We want to stay business. I
think what we need as business owners is consistency and stability. And I never thought I'd say this, but boy, you could give me Bill Clinton and Tip O'Neill, or you could give me Newt Gingrich, Newt Gingrich with Bill Clinton, or Tip O'Neill with Ronald Reagan. I'd take those days back when America's left and right were still talking, and give me that. Business people, we need stability, stability in our markets and in our government.
It's we're off the rails sometimes with our politics, and
yes,
to say the least. But we're going to finish up. Adam, thank you very much for coming on the show today. We're excited to have you. We're going to have a lot more shows just like this. And Adam, I want you to come back, give us an update on who you've helped lately, or not a name, but just a cause. I mean, it's like that's what we want to know here on the show. Is like, what can we do to help others? And maybe there's one. I mean, they're not.
Something I didn't mention. All my royalties, 100% of my royalties from all my books, I donate to charity.
Awesome. Wow. That's great. That is great.
Amazing.
Very good. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for showing up today. We're going to be back on Friday with another guest from our church here in Plano, Dallas, Plano, and we look forward to seeing you there. Until then, you got 2 days to read the book and get acclimated, and we're going to ask questions about this. We're going to stay involved. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day, and see you again here soon.